Thank you. Welcome, everyone. I want to check in before we formally get started with the practice, how things are going. And just to refresh from last week, we were doing these Shakyamuni Buddha meditations. We've been doing this the last few weeks. This is class 4 of 6 classes, just to orient you where we are in this program of establishing a daily practice. And we had focused on the Shakyamuni Buddha practice, focused on refuge. And then we've used it focusing on the 7 limbs, a very profound prayer. So what this is showing you is a simple guru yoga practice, but you can build other things in your practice into it. So I'm just giving you the fluidity to show you how to adapt, how to make some variety in the practice, which Westerners really like. And we're going to continue to do these practices to create more imprints. So, and then we talked about all of the prayers and things are support for our mind. And at times you can back off of the actual words, if you like, if you know them well enough, to then really focus more on the visualization as well. But the words are also important at times. So you learn in your own practice how to balance what you're doing and how to make it tasty for you. That's the important thing, is to make it tasty so that you feel the joy in doing it, and then to understand the essence behind it. It's unbelievable the amount of merit it creates in your mind. So good conditions to practice, and we need those good conditions. We need to create those causes, which mean I want to do my practice then. I want to meditate on the Lam Rim. I understand why that's significant. And then it starts unfolding and getting deeper for me so that I develop this rich, consistent practice. What happens for a lot of Westerners is they dabble. And I understand that because there's so many enticing things to be distracted with, right? So it's not like we were living up on the mountaintop and it's dusty and there's nothing else and all you have are your prayers and practices. But we have a lot of, very delectable things in samsara that we're engaged with. Not that anything is good or bad, it's just other things that take our mind to different places. And some of these things have a different result temporarily for us of more pleasure than when you're sitting there kind of going through a visualization and you don't visualize well. So you go, I don't really know, does this matter? And I've been through all those stages where the doubt arises. So we're going to talk about that also in the next few classes and how to keep it going. But I just wanted to explain why I'm talking about all these different practices. We talked about listening, reflecting, and meditating, how we first come into the teachings, and then a little bit about post-meditation time. So the time off your cushion, we're going to talk more about that too. How do we make that useful? And then I talked about the different scopes of the Lam Rim and where the analytical meditation fits in. And we're going to talk more about that more specifically today. So part of the homework was to rejoice in your good actions and good qualities, and to just simply observe any negative mind states that arise. Notice the positive thoughts that arise. Is that happening in a balanced way? Are positive thoughts swimming in more so than the negative? Or are the negative dominating? And what is possible for you to do about it? How did it work for you? So I just want to hear from anybody. Just be authentic. What's going on for you? Are you getting to the cushion? Are you not getting to the cushion? And anything from last week, anything that you did work on this past week? Anything anyone cares to share? Please, my dear. Caroline.
Okay, thank you. So I really, really, really loved the 7 limb practice. I'm crazy about that. It's so intense. I mean, amazing. Really
Wonderful.
amazing.
And to do it with
Yes.
some thought, like once you start learning what those, like if you're paying homage and you just say the line, I pay homage. Reverently, I pay homage with my body, speech, and mind. That's number one of the 7 limbs. That's limb number 1. So we can just blah, blah, reverently, I prostrate my body, speech, and mind. Doesn't really have an effect. But if I have the Buddha in front of me, and then I think, well, I don't really have much humility. So this really could add to some humility, some seeds of humility in me. Maybe I just decide to put my hands like this.
Mm-hmm.
I feel, so each little layer you add on, you suddenly go, well, that feels okay. I don't see anybody really in front of me, but I'm imagining as if they're there. And you slowly work your way into your practice like that. And you think about, and then maybe I visualize that I'm making prostrations full length. And maybe some weeks later, I visualize countless numbers of myself making prostrations. And then I maybe visualize those countless emanations of myself are huge and covering all the space, making these prostrations. So you're slowly, and what it does is, this is all a little bit foreign for us. It's easier for some of you, I'm sure. I'm just thinking of, I don't watch a lot of TV, but I've watched someone, I visit my sister or brother or some. So have you ever heard of this show? I don't know the full name, but SVU, it's a detective show. Has anyone ever heard of this detective show? Anyway, my sister watches a bit, and I've seen some. So, that some people, even in pandemic, Dharma students said to me, why am I watching these reruns of that show or this show? Or that's more evident in our mind. That's what we visualize, where you say to visualize the Buddha and us making all these prostrations. Okay, so we want to become the superheroes in our minds. That's what comes up. Not these other distractions that take us away, things in the news or things that other people are talking about like that. So reverently, I prostrate with my body, speech, mind. Then with that whole package, I say reverently, I prostrate with my body, speech, and mind, and I'm more there with it. So it can be very powerful, but you slowly add on the different layers. You can't know all this at once. So you slowly get the meaning. Oh, what's that homage about? What are the offerings about? What's the confession about? It's simply about regret for doing something. We sometimes do something negative, and in the next moment you just move on and you're like, oh, I never reflected on it again. And then as a result of not reflecting on it and not doing any proper purification, the tendency to do the negative thing again is stronger. So you can see how slowly there's little bits that seep in that create good conditions. So it creates those positive causes for our practice, which creates positive causes, stronger direction for us to become a Buddha. That's why we're doing this. And then it also lessens the negative tendencies. And then we can do effective purification, which we're going to do Vajrasattva next week. I'm going to focus on that. So thank you, Caroline. And I also just want to check for a moment with our host, Mary. Thank you for joining. I just want to check, do we get clear on the meditations now? Do people have those meditations?
So thank you, Venerable Amy. I wanted to make that announcement. Yes, we got clear. So on the website, in the materials link, if you click on the materials link, you're going to see a series of the meditations, the 2 from last week, and then a couple more. Outside of the materials link, if you go just to the website, like where you would log in to zoom into the class. I'm so sorry. I apologize for that. If you go to the website where you would log into the class, on that page, you're going to see a series of other links for materials that Venerable Amy has referenced. There are different resources available through the FPMT, the organization, that's separate than the materials link. So you need to go to 2 different spots to look for the different information. The materials link is going to have all of the PDFs. The website is going to have links to the FPMT website for resources and for books and for text.
Perfect. And I see it all here. I see the, right now I'm looking in the materials link. Wonderful. And I want to thank you, Mary, so much for clarifying all that. So I saw a number of you nodding your heads that you got everything. And again, this is not, don't worry if it's like I didn't complete everything in this 6-week time. You have your life to do this. But again, as one of my lamas said, slowly, slowly, but not too slowly. Like, get to it and do it, because this is only one module of 14 different modules of only this level of our classes. There's several other levels you can study. So again, depending on your own interest and time and lifestyle. But again, it's rich as it unfolds. So thank you so much for getting all those materials and starting to do those, and the readings are also really, really helpful. I want to know, how did it go with focusing on your positive qualities or noticing negative qualities? How's your balance? I just want to ask. How's the balance going, Mary?
Well, I just really appreciate what you said about rebalancing our airtime and not carrying an iron knot in your heart around carting around anxiety. That was really profound for me to hear, because I had let an external influence dismantle my altar. I'm not sure what I'm doing in my life right now with a few things. And so I had a realtor come to the house about a month ago, and she told me I needed to take down my altar if I would sell the house, and I was potentially going to do that. So I took down the altar, and it definitely, I didn't realize, like, it really it affected me, and not in a good way. It kind of goes back to one of the first classes when Doris asked about displaying your altar or not displaying your altar, but being your authentic self. And so that's been a profound, like, this is who I am. And if I decide to go that route, then I will dismantle it. But for now, I need to leave. I need to carry on with or without the realtor.
Yes, isn't it interesting? I actually find it quite sad in the States when I've heard that before. This is not the first time I heard it. If you want to sell your house, and it's so sad in the States, but if you have a big picture on your wall of some football player, that's great to sell your house. Like, I personally find it really sad because football, I find American football is very violent, and I think it contributes to a violent culture. And it's really kind of the worship sports now. It used to be baseball was the all-time pastime, a very gentle kind of game, but football's kind of dominated. And if you look at the cities with their football stadiums, those are the stupas for America. Those are the shrines, or the football stadiums. I can just tell you what the one in Philadelphia looks like. But if it was a Buddhist country, you'd have a stupa there. But, in America, you have a football stadium. So when they tell you to dismantle your altar, and I think do what you need to do, because, and the other thing, Mary, is for anybody here, everybody's kind of upside down right now, aren't they? I mean, some people have your house and you're not moving, but many people I know, it's just they're waiting to travel. They're waiting to figure out what their kids are going to do in school. They're waiting to have visitors come in to have family reunions and weddings and funerals and memorial services, or people that are moving. And the other thing, I imagine, if you're in the Santa Fe area, Mary, are you in the Santa Fe area?
I'm in Taos, a couple hours.
So you're in Taos. I don't know the real estate situation there, but where I am, if you're not in a city, and I don't know all of your experience if you're finding this, but where I'm living, which is a suburban area of Philadelphia, I've been told that your house is going to sell probably within a week. So when you put it on the market, be ready. Like, be ready to get going and get packing. I don't know. I would imagine Taos could be similar, because it seems like a desirable part of the country to live in. And so the altar may mean nothing. And some people won't even come and look at the house. They're having bidding wars, paying in cash without even coming to see the house. They may just want to know square footage and, blah, blah. I don't know. I don't know your area. So I wish you the best with it and it's unsettling to move for a lot of people. It's a big change. And my niece is in an issue with her apartment now with the lease, and a roommate moved out, and she just turned to me the other day and said, I just don't like change. So how many of you are there, right? No, most people I know don't like change. But again, here's where we are. This is where we are, change. This is happening all the time, change. So why are we resisting something that's very natural and there's nothing we can do about it? Now you can have less change in your life, if you decide and you go, I think it's too stressful for me to move, so I'm just going to stay where I am. Okay, so fine. That's a choice that creates less change for you. But then again, if there's a reason you're feeling to move, something better like that, it may be better to go through the flux for a little bit, where you might end up in a better situation. So you have to weigh that yourself and use your wisdom. So take it easy, Mary. You're right in there, and I think you're doing great. And notice, again, it is nice to have an altar. I personally like to have something where I can sit and I feel that grounding. So just do the best you can. Do the best you can. Jenny?
Jenny, you need to unmute, please.
Thank you. Hello, Venerable. Just quickly on the word of altars, if you remember, I said that my ceiling had fallen down. I now have a date to get that room fixed, which is Sunday, the 11th of July. So I'm rejoicing about that.
Great.
And that is great, because I can just get that sorted out and get back in there properly. And a couple of other things. My eldest son lost his job the other day, but on top of that, he had quite a large sum of money stolen from him from his place of work, and we kind of know who did it, but there's no proof. So we didn't call the police or anything like that. Maybe we should have, but I could feel the anger arising against this person. It's a lady, but I managed to, throughout the day and the evening, push this anger away, push it away, try and analyze why she might have done that. She's after happiness like everybody else. She just wants to be happy, but her kind of trying to rationalize it, her kind of vision of happiness, is a bit deluded, really, to steal from somebody like that. It was quite a large sum of money, £5,500 is quite a large sum of money to just be taken from you like that. And my partner, his dad, of course, was very angry as well, but he was feeling quite sort of like he wanted to retaliate, in a violent fashion. And I managed to kind of talk him out of it, talk him round, and say to, look, whatever she's doing it to herself as well, because it will come back to her in some way. Maybe, I said to him, you want the satisfaction of being able to hurt her because she's hurt Brett, but it's not the way to go forward. So he was a bit subdued from that, which I felt was great, because he can be quite a kind of person, if the situation arises, he's got a lot of fire in there, so he can get angry very easily. But I felt him being subdued, and when he went off to work, he was much calmer. So I'm kind of rejoicing in that I managed to get control of that and not let it go all mental in my own mind, but also in my partner's, my husband's mind as well, and my son, who had it done to him, he was quite controlled.
So good for you. I mean, and also the other thing is, if there's no understanding of karma, then the delusions arise. If you don't understand that we created the cause for this to happen to us, your son has karmic cause to be stolen from. So if there's no understanding of that, then anger arises. But if you go, well, I just purified something because somebody, I must have created, cause was in my mind, is what Buddhism says. Cause was in my mind. And the other thing is, you could also practically maybe advise your son to not bring large amounts of money to his workplace.
Yeah, well, that's crazy. Why leave it there? It
makes sense to have that much money at your workplace. It doesn't seem to. It's just going to. And the other thing is, be careful all of us with our belongings. The reason is, like when I drive to a store and lock my car, I'm not really that concerned with anything in my car. I'm not all that concerned if they steal my car, frankly, right? But it protects somebody else from being enticed to break it. Like it does think about that. It's not just about me and my possessions, but don't leave valuable things around or in other people. People have all their different things going on. And right now, a lot of people are pretty desperate for money, financially. The pandemic's taken them down there. So if you leave some enticing thing around for someone, and they're not a Dharma person, or they're not somebody that understands general ethics of not stealing, they may just be suddenly something flips and they decide to take it. So it's a way that we protect others. It's something you could explain to your son. And it's great how you de-escalated the rising anger in your partner. But again, for all of us, understanding karma, when something unfortunate happens to you, Tibetan Buddhism says the cause must have been in your mind. It's not external. You might have some irritation at this person. There's some cause there, but also understand the person's side, the suffering they will encounter. We can we can grow some compassion for them.
That's hard. That's quite hard, isn't it? That's a hard one.
It's harder, but we slowly work on that. We work on that slowly, because without a direct perception of emptiness, for one, but mainly because the world doesn't have that direct perception for the most part, meaning most people in the world are sentient beings, soso kiwo. Sentient beings means I suffer from delusion. I'm not a Buddha. I haven't seen the truth directly. And as long as that is your case, which may apply to most of us, okay, it means I'm going to get the story wrong. Every time I'm seeing, thinking, saying, I have the story wrong, right? I'm participating in as a valid perception as I can, which we have to, but my story is inaccurate, but I'm operating from there, as is everybody else, you know?
Sure.
So when we bump up against each other, that's where irritation comes from. That's where attachment comes from. So when I realize that just in my own suffering, think about all these other beings really suffering. And then you have to generate compassion. Think of a terrorist. Honestly, this is an extreme. Think of somebody that puts on a vest made of explosives with the intention that they're not only going to blow themselves up, but they're going to try to be in as populated a place to cause as much harm as possible. Think of that mindset. So you might say, well, I kind of got it wrong and I was blaming this woman for dinging my car. But think of a terrorist like that, suicide bomber, let's say, right, of how far their mind has kind of gotten from the truth, from a better reality. So then I think, how can I not have compassion? Is it a terrible act? Absolutely. But to just blame the person that they're evil, no, they just have a bigger mistake in their mind than I do. And bigger mistakes cause bigger harm. Okay. So, and also more harm for themselves and their minds. So how can I not have compassion? Because if I stay with anger, that creates more of my terrorist mind as well. I'm constructing that terrorist mind in myself. Not that I'll ever blow up anybody, but it still constructs more delusion in my mind. Does everybody understand?
Yeah.
This is our work to do. This is our in-between session work. You know, like you come out of a meditation, you come out of your morning practice or something, and you happen to glance at something on your phone, or you decide to look at the news, or a friend calls and goes, did you hear about what happened in da 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 da? And then what happens is if your friend is telling you a story, or a family member is telling you a story with sides, meaning they did this to me, this happened to my kid. Do you know what he told me the other day? You know what she said? Where they're trying to get you on their side. There are no sides. So your post-meditation mind is you listen to what they say. You can be compassionately empathetic, no problem. But you don't need to take sides, because the truth is there are no sides. Non-duality. It's just delusion makes sides. Delusion separates us and makes good and bad and black and white and terrorists and peace, and none of that really exists at all like that. Does that make sense? So slowly you kind of work with that as best as you can over time. Don't expect to get it all. There are going to be times some family member comes, I was wrong, and you, oh my gosh, that's terrible. That terrible man. How did he do that? Okay. And then later you go back to your cushion and you go, I wasn't really happy this afternoon. What happened? Well, I wasn't really happy with that conversation. Well, what wasn't I happy with it about it? And then you look at that with a laser. You look more focused in meditation, analytically. You analyze. We'll talk more about that too. So thank you, everyone. Thank you, Jenny.
Thank you, Venerable.
Venerable.
Anna, please.
Hello, hi there. I'm just listening about the, the conventional and the ultimate. There is no good or bad. I've been in years of experiencing an extremely negative karma, should we say? Sorry, my cat's biting me. There we go. And of course, you have to navigate with the sides of good and bad and to keep yourself safe. And, you have to let certain people know what's going on around. And I've found that quite difficult, where you're trying to express something to somebody because they kind of are in a need to know basis or setting, but then you can get named or called, or in my case, bullied or accused, or no, you're blaming, and it's like, no, this happened, this is my situation, and we can all, move forward. But it's so difficult, and it seems, excuse me, but it seems to be within Dharmic groups, you can get quite ferociously attacked for having an opinion or expressing you have been abused, or this has happened, or, and then, yeah, of course, you have the opposite. People are joyful when good things happen, but then still it's an opinion. So it causes like a frustration and a confusion, and then I don't know whether just to be quiet, and then I think, well, I do need to speak, and, I have got friends, and it's so frustrating and confusing, particularly if the other person is continuous in their behaviour, quite covertly, with serious and dramatic effects. All logged on my case. Logged as a dangerous man. To me.
Right. Right.
It's so confusing.
Well, I think part of it is also we do have to protect ourselves at times. This is all of us using wisdom and compassion. You're building
Absolutely.
that, you're growing that on the path. So again, part of that is if somebody is being verbally abusive, I don't care if they're Dharma people or not, it's not okay. So we need to be strong enough to stand up for each other if it's a group setting on Zoom, to stand up for ourselves. But if we can try to come from a place of compassion, it tends to de-escalate the scene more quickly than suddenly, well, my opinion's more important than yours, or as soon as they hear that escalation in my voice alone, sometimes people have it in their voice, sometimes it's an expression. And because we're on Zoom, it's all very strange. It's a little bit more evident in person, but also in person it can get scarier because you're face to face with someone. So again, it is part of our responsibility to take action when we can, especially in the face, I'd say, of, I'm putting a big umbrella here of social injustice, which I'm calling all the abuse, all of that under. So it's not that as bodhisattvas we're doormats to say, oh, well, that's their karma. No.
Yeah.
No, you can't say that. You recognize the karma, right? If you've been abused, there is karma in my mind, there's a seed that causes it, but we don't allow it to perpetuate. We don't allow people to continue that, whether it's yourself setting a clear, compassionate boundary, a realistic boundary that you can keep and adhere to with the other person, or whether it's a group suddenly saying, well, this really isn't okay, but how can we figure out a more positive solution? And, things like that. So we do have a responsibility to act, I believe, but again, from compassionate wisdom, not from vengeance and attacking, because all the attacking and vengeance, you're just going to get it back. You're just going to get it back. And then the other unfortunate, huge imbalance on our planet, as you know, as everyone knows, is on what you appear to me, and I could be wrong, as a woman of color, person of color. So, you know, and women of color, my experience of my friends, have the hardest time. I'm sorry, they just do. They have the hardest time. So, you know, just for those of you on the planet, many of you are aware of this. I'm not telling you anything new, of the kind of hierarchy that I'm going to bring down from, I'm going to put here. I don't know if this is your experience. Tall white men, kind of, you know, tall, well-educated white men get the high kind of rank. And then it goes to my different friends from that range, all the way down to like poor women of color are down here. That's just kind of the range of how people struggle and don't struggle. So we also have to kind of step back a little bit to get perspective when somebody's speaking. Where are they coming from? You know, is it from a place of privilege, of utmost privilege? Is it from a place of utmost fracture, simply because of the way they look, or the way their hairstyle is, or the kind of tattoos they have, or the body piercings, or the kind of label on their shirt? Or, you know, this is how we again find duality, is we look at people this way. And I've noticed it in myself like that. So again, we have to, you know, try to level that playing field to kind of, and I've had some dear friends where they just take people on face value. It doesn't matter what they look like, and they just have that open heart. His Holiness the Dalai Lama has that with everybody. He's friends with everybody.
Yeah.
There's no distinction of, oh, you're in a wheelchair. Oh, you're poor. Oh, you drive that kind of car. You're, you know, he doesn't have distinctions of this person's dearer to me than, so we're trying to develop that in our own minds. So I also try to be sensitive to where this person might be coming from. And even if they're harming, where they might be coming from.
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely an egoistic wound, and the fact, you know, I've escaped and I haven't failed. You know, I am suffering greatly, but I seem to be excelling and esteeming in certain areas. And I believe I do have a big heart of compassion. I worked on some really heavy projects, criminality, homelessness, street working people, prostitutes. And within that project, we had two paedophiles, a woman and a man. And within a group of our projects, nobody would take these people on as clients. And I did, because at the time I had a 6-year-old and a 4-year-old niece, and a nephew I helped bring up. And I was thinking of them, thinking, for the sake of these children walking the streets and being safe, I'm going to take these people on so we can keep an eye on them. You know, we could check their addresses and where they've been. And
Sure.
Actually, eventually, you do get to see the characters. The male was quite a nice person. Apart from that, the female,
Right.
not such a nice person. And I'm judging, but you know, to generalize, I feel I've got a big heart, but I just feel I need a lot more wisdom. That's what I need.
That's what we're doing. And again, I want to quote Brian Stevenson with the Equal Justice Initiative, an amazing man, one of my heroes. We are more than the worst thing we've ever done. You know, so it's something to consider when you're really, you know, encountering some real evil, what you might label as evil on the planet. We are much more, you know, much better than the worst thing, which reminds me of our Buddha nature. We all have Buddha nature. So we have to remember that everyone with a mind has that potential to become a Buddha. So, you know, so I think that's helpful as we do our work, but that's what we're trying to do, is develop our wisdom and compassion. So let's get ready to do our practice. I'm going to take you back through that 7-limb practice of Shakyamuni Buddha. So if you have those materials, again, where I'm focusing on, this was the homework for the week, if you happen to get it. If not, you just continue and do it this week. Meditation 2 is Shakyamuni Buddha with extensive 7-limb prayer and mantra recitation. And this is just, again, a way to set up your practice. So let's just start, first of all, with finding the comfortable posture. Some of you I know have already done this morning, no problem. But just position your body in a positive way. And if you like, I can share my screen. If we want, we can have that practice on our screen. Thank you, Mary, for posting again the practice. Let's see. Here we go. Can you see that on your screen if you like? Okay. Let me know if you cannot see it because I'm going to make it bigger. But basically, I'm going to lead you through this right now, but we're going to just start finding the posture. And as you do that, again, please take a moment, 1 or 2 minutes, to scan your body, allowing the body to relax into this posture. You can lightly close your eyes. So that little 1 to 2 minutes, it starts to tell your body and mind, this is what we're doing now. We're going into our practice, our session. Let go of the other things. And then think about your motivation. Let's reestablish, if you haven't done it this morning, either setting up the good motivation or reestablishing a motivation, which you can do any time of the day. This is about you directing your awareness in a most positive way, rather than having distraction pull your mental energy in another direction. And think about the biggest wish you may have, which could be, especially if it's aligned with this tradition of Buddhism, Tibetan Buddhism, Mahayana tradition, could be aligned with the wish to really want to help all beings perfectly. To know, to say, to think, every single moment you breathe, the best thing for all beings. And how do we do that best? Is as a Buddha. As a Buddha, we are unlimited in doing that work, in manifesting in that way. So take a moment right now and think about all the different beings suffering. And if you'd like, you can place them in the space around you as we did last week. For instance, family members seated to your sides, right and left sides. Friends are behind you, friends and colleagues, people you like, in a semicircle behind you, lending that support. In front of you, seated across from you, facing you, maybe any people you find challenging, or even people that you would identify as a stranger. You don't know them very well. Above them, you can visualize Shakyamuni Buddha, a golden, radiant light being, about 6 inches in height, on a beautiful jeweled throne facing you. Think about all the beings suffering, and you can fill in the rest of the space with around the Buddha, his particular entourage of other Buddhas, teachers, anyone like that. And the rest of the space filled with sentient beings. All these sentient beings suffering. If you can reach deeply in your heart to connect with this urge to want so much to help them. And if it's hard to connect with this feeling with all these beings, think of the dearest one to you. And think about times they've suffered. If I could just relieve them of their suffering, even for 1 minute. But as humans, again, we're limited. As a Buddha, unlimited. So you can use that energy to fuel that motivation. And it's for that purpose to really benefit unlimitedly all these living beings is why we're going to do this practice right now. So if you'd like, you can spend some time with some breathing meditations. That's fine. Just for time's sake, I'm going to continue on. And just think of the Buddha for a moment. This is on the screen of the refuge prayers. And just think of, in my current capacity to benefit all these beings, I'm really limited. And I actually suffer a lot at times, which makes me more limited from helping others. So think about what really protects you from suffering. What ultimately protects us from suffering. So you can think about the different things you reach for when you suffer, different activities you do, and how well do those activities protect you from suffering in the long run. And what about the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha protecting you in the long run if they were included in what your activities when you suffer? So there's the Buddha, let's imagine, in the space in front. And the Buddha is a manifestation and embodiment of the three rare sublime ones, meaning the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, what we call the three jewels of refuge. So just briefly, with this refuge line, the different lines to the Guru, I go for refuge, to the Buddha, to the Dharma, the Sangha. We'll recite them 3 times through. We'll recite them in English. And as you do it, visualize light rays coming from the Buddha's heart now, whatever color you'd like to imagine. And it's not only purifying whatever prevents you from having proper refuge or from deepening your refuge, but it creates all those realizations and blessings of proper refuge. Just try to visualize that as best as you can. To the Guru, I go for refuge. To the Buddha, I go for refuge. To the Dharma, I go for refuge. To the Sangha, I go for refuge. To the Guru, I go for refuge. To the Buddha, I go for refuge. To the Dharma, I go for refuge. To the Sangha, I go for refuge. To the Guru, I go for refuge. To the Buddha, I go for refuge. To the Dharma, I go for refuge. To the Sangha, I go for refuge. If you like, choose one of those lines or rotate through those 4 lines, reciting a bit more as you keep that visualization going, and you're welcome to recite the Sanskrit, Namo Gurubhye, Namo Buddhaya, Namo Namo Dhamma. But stay with one of them if you like. Namo Buddhaya, Namo Buddhaya, Namo. Do a few of those and then go on to the next one as you keep the visualization going. So just briefly, we do. If you don't have a lot of time and you're not focused, for instance, heavily on refuge at that particular point in your practice, then we go on, we continue on. And if you'd like, you can once again bring up bodhicitta and keep that about all these beings that are sick as it goes on here. It comes to the 4 immeasurables that I'm going to read briefly instead of the longer version here. So let's send these immeasurable prayers right now out to the universe. Just reflect. Immeasurable love. All these countless beings around you, and just think, and all the planet as well, extending out, filling all the space. May you have happiness in all the causes of happiness. Immeasurable compassion. May all of you be free of suffering and the causes of suffering. Immeasurable joy. May all of you never be separated from the happiness that is without suffering. Immeasurable equanimity. May all of you experience equanimity, free from having attachment to some and aversion to others. The 7-limb prayer. So with prostration, and usually, again, I put my hands in the mudra prostration for the 7-limb prayer. Identifying clearly a quality of that enlightened mind that we ourselves wish to achieve, and imagine yourself making prostrations to the Buddha in the space in front. And if you'd like, bring along all the beings we visualized around us. We're the leader of these prostrations. Or visualize yourself in countless forms as huge as possible, making full-length prostrations to the Buddha and his entourage. So focus again, it's nice how they say a quality of that enlightened mind that we want to prostrate to, if you want to identify that. For instance, fearlessness. The Buddha is fearless. That's a nice quality. The Buddha is omniscient, all-knowing. That's a wonderful quality to pay homage to, pay respect to. Okay. And I'll just read a simple line is, reverently I prostrate with my body, speech, and mind. So just visualize as best as you can you're making these prostrations. Making offerings. I make manifest offerings, both actual and imagined. Okay, so here's what it says. What would I give for enlightenment? What would I give for perfect wisdom, compassion, perfect ability? In a sense, what is that worth to me? Okay. What is that worth to you? Think about it in your heart. Can you visualize any offering you'd like to imagine right now? Visualize that offering spreading out, filling all the space, and imagine, here it says, I love this, walking up to Shakyamuni Buddha. If you'd like, tap your head to the throne and then present this offering. And imagine that offering multiplying, filling all the space. Make that offering right now as best as you can. The Buddha is extremely pleased and accepts this offering with a mind of great bliss. Okay, and then imagine all the offerings that we've made absorbed back into his heart. Confessing. Think of some mistakes you've made, and this is normal for human beings. We all make mistakes. Can you just say them openly, honestly, confessing them to the Buddha, admitting the mistakes the way I have done with my teachers? Very powerful part of our purification practice. is to admit that we made a mistake. We may have snapped at someone. We may have had some negative thoughts about somebody. We may have been angry. We're all there. We're all there together like that. It isn't the way we wanted it to go, but we just haven't had that kind of control over our minds. We are working on it. Can you now deeply in your heart, there you are in front of the Buddha, generate a very deep sense of regret for whatever activities of your body, speech, and mind you're focused on right now? Confess. And then it's nice to resolve here where it says, next time, I'll try my best to do it differently. So have that resolution in your heart too, that next time, I really am going to try to work on this and do it differently, do it in a better way. Rejoicing, the next limb. Okay. So this is again building up our positive store, building up the positive qualities. When I said to please reflect on the positive things you do, the positive qualities you have. Rejoice in the goodness, it starts with, of ourselves in a balanced way. Take a moment right now. Think of some things that you've done this past week, positive things. Just feel that rejoicing, like when we say in the simple form, I rejoice in all my positive qualities and those of all noble and Arya beings, meaning the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. Think of the effort you're making right now, right? Fantastic to join this class. There's many other things you could be doing. And think about the past conditions you've set up to create connecting with the Dharma right now. You can just think in your mind how wonderful it is, how wonderful it is, how wonderful it is, how wonderful it is. Think about all the holy beings. Think about His Holiness the Dalai Lama, whose birthday was yesterday. Lama Zopa Rinpoche, all of our other precious teachers, other Dharma practitioners, all the efforts of the centers. And once again, think how wonderful it is, how wonderful it is, how wonderful, all the goodness that is going on in the world and all the beings creating that, how wonderful it is, how wonderful it is. And then requesting, very important part. So we're asking the teachers to stay with us, never to leave, really until samsara ends. It's a tall order. So what we want to do is offer golden thrones, not only to Shakyamuni Buddha, but also his entourage. If you visualize any teachers around him, the golden throne you're offering dissolves into his throne, and it has a double dorje on the front, which is a little cross, two thunderbolts kind of crossed, also called a vajra in Sanskrit. And that represents not only long life, but here in the text it says firmness and stability. So imagine offering those thrones, and just from your heart right now, in your mind, really make that heartfelt request. Please stay to guide us to enlightenment. Please don't leave. And then the next limb is requesting, more specifically, teachings, asking them to turn the wheel of Dharma. So you can visualize offering golden Dharma chakras, which are 1,000-spoked wheels, to the entourage. They dissolve into their hearts and they accept that they will teach. So from the depth of your hearts, it says here, request them to give us blessings to teach us what is needed to get us enlightened. And imagine the Buddha accepts our requests, promises us that they will teach. And may we dedicate all the positive energy we've just created from this very powerful prayer for the enlightenment of ourselves and all other beings. Mandala offering. So again, I explained this last week. Now, if you are practicing the mandala offering nundro, preliminary practices again. So I mentioned in the Gelugpa tradition, wait, I'm going to stop my share for a moment. Okay. I just want to explain mandala offerings a little bit. This is one of our 9 nundro in the Gelugpa tradition. So when I say nundro, N-G-O-N-D-R-O is how it's pronounced, how it's spelled. The NG is in the back of your throat, ngundro, ngundro. It's not nindro. It's not in the front of your teeth, ngundro. And what it really means is preliminary practices. And these are practices that basically help us wash away negativity in our mind stream, purification, and also help us to accumulate the conditions we need to progress on the path. They're very, very effective. Some people are working on their nundro, like people say, I'm working on my nundro, or I'm finishing my nundro, or I'm like that. And a lot of people are doing it if they want to do longer retreat, or they have various obstacles in their life, or they've sought a lifetime practice from Lama Zopa Rinpoche. So Rinpoche's given them nundro to do. And you might get a set of a certain number. So some people have been nervous to ask Rinpoche for lifetime practice because they get afraid of all these practices they have to do. And how are they going to fit that in their lives? So the practices free you. Okay, what do they free you from? Suffering, delusion, negative karma. Okay, well, you really want that. But the thing is, you really haven't tasted what that's like yet. So all you see is nundro or piling on more things that you don't have time to do. And so people get very overwhelmed. It's very natural, not to worry. But the thing is, if you get a lifetime practice from a highly realized being, like Lama Zopa Rinpoche, right, then you know exactly what you're supposed to be doing every day. So I find it really clear, but again, it takes a while to get to that space where you're willing to kind of open that door and go in that room. So the numbers you might get, like for me, the tsatsa practice is something Rinpoche gave me years ago, but basically he just said, do your nundro. And then when he says something like that, if it's a normal thing in the old days before we had these standardized practices, was a set, you try to do 100,000 of each of those 9 practices. The practices could include water bowl offerings. So you're making 100,000 water bowl offerings over time. You could be reciting Vajrasattva. You could be doing a burning offering that helps purify things. You could be reciting other mantras, doing prostrations, making satsas. There's a whole variety. They take all different lengths of times. And one of them is making mandala offerings. Mandala offerings creates prosperity in your life. That's one of the byproducts. So if you're somebody who's really poor, your center's struggling financially, this actually could be helpful. But it's better to get direct information from Rinpoche of which specific nundro might be more powerful for you. Or if you happen to feel an affinity to one of them and you say, I really like making prostrations, it's like exercise, and then certainly try that for a bit. Okay. So I'll get to some questions in a little bit, Mary. Thank you. And that's a good question. I was going to talk about that near the end of the course, like that. So, so generally it sounds daunting to say 100,000, like, what? Like, how's that working? Things like that. But slowly, now there's all these practice booklets of how you do things, and you work on it over time, and you will see a transformation in your mind. They really do affect something. It's hard to put my finger on it, but every one that I've completed, not only do I feel like I could do it again, yet I also feel that there's been some shift. Something got cleaned up, or some, it's very interesting too, because we very much deal with externals more than realizing there's an internal seed that is creating my external reality. What we deal with is externals. And I remember my first retreat alone at Laudo was offering water bowls. There's actually a Laudo newsletter that comes out, and I just wrote an article for them about my water bowl practice up there. And I think you can get on that email list, which is really nice, about Laudo and how to support Laudo. But when I went up there, I was barely a Buddhist. So it was a very hard practice, and I kind of gave up at one point and said, I can't do this, it's too much. And you see the mind go through the fluctuations. And but it was about prosperity as well, but I didn't have anything, that wasn't why I was doing it. But I had lent a friend $1,000. I didn't have much money, but a friend was really, and I think I lent somebody $1,000. I never really expected to get it back from them. I just knew they didn't have any money and they weren't going to be good at paying it back and whatever. And at the end of the retreat, the water bowl retreat, 2.5 months with no mail or anything, it was before email existed or cell phones. And at the end of my retreat, one message happened to make it up to Laudo, because I had all my mail held at Kopan. And it was a message from this friend that how he had sent a wire that had transferred the money back to me. Like, it was just bizarre. I mean, it had been lent to him a few years before. So it was really, I was kind of like, huh, this, you know. And I also had an email from another friend, not an email, a letter that came also right at the end of the water bowl retreat. I'd never asked this person for money, but they heard what I was doing, that I was doing retreats, and I wanted to stay longer in Asia. And they had sent some money for me, offered me money to do that. So it's like, I never, like, how did that happen, right? So those are things, they're not miracles. It's, I created the cause. The cause, suddenly the seed was planted in my mind. That's how you affect your external reality, seriously. So the more you get into this practice, I think the more you'll realize, you'll start to see signs of that, of purification or accumulation of merit. It's really significant. So with the mandala offerings, and let me just show you for a moment. And we don't really have time in this class to go through a whole mandala ritual, but you may decide to get a mandala set. This is how I keep my set. It's rather big and it's heavy, but a student years ago in Santa Cruz made a lovely cloth for it, because what's contained in it are a lot of beads, but you basically can get a set, a ritual set of these rings. I'm just going to show you. It's upside down, but okay. So the bottom is a base, a metal base, right? And then inside are these. Okay, here's one ring. Okay, this has auspicious symbols on it. Okay, you can also get these in metal, and then you build it up. Some of you've seen these at centers, so it's like a wedding cake. Each tier is a little bit smaller, the rings. And then I got a bunch of glass beads from the Kathmandu bead market, and other things Rinpoche's given me. Somebody gave me a strand of pearls, everything, anything precious and stuff, polished stones people have given me, crystals, all go in this set if I want to offer them. And then through this mandala ritual, which there is a practice booklet, how to offer mandalas. I'm sure there's instructions. So in the old days, none of it was written down, but you had to write down yourself. And what you do is you slowly, it's very complex, you slowly learn the mandala offering, the long one. And it takes a while. But basically, you want to understand a little bit the configuration of what you're offering. And there's things like the precious mountain, the precious jewel, the precious cow, the precious horse, the precious householder. They each have a significance, and you can read about it in that mandala manual, that booklet. And then you can slowly learn how to do the mandala. But when you're doing multiple mandala offerings, and this is the part in the puja where you would put them, like in your session, if you're working on mandala offerings, which I'm actually also partly working on, they're taking me a really long time. That's going to be probably the last nundro I'm going to have to do, is this would be the place you could insert it. And basically you do less refuge and less of this. But the mandala offerings, I might spend, if I've got time, I might spend 15 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour of just making mandala offerings with as good a visualization as possible. And then whatever I do that day, I count that many. So if you're doing them regularly, numerous, you do a short mandala offering. Those are the ones you're counting. You just offer one long one, and then the other one, shorter ones, and explains how you do. The nice thing about it is to have a workshop. Meaning, people would, and you can go to an art store. You don't need anything elaborate or expensive. So you can either go to a Dharma website where they sell mandala, like the mandala set. Those are going to be somewhat expensive. You can eventually get yourself to Kathmandu where you can buy them more cheaply, and you can look at a variety of them. Like, so after the Laudo pilgrimage in 2018, some people wanted to buy a mandala set, and I took them around Boda and explored the better shops of where they could buy them and which ones, and some are expensive and some are less so, depending. And then you can get different things to put in them. The simplest is people put white rice in it, as long as you clean the rice first. And the reason I use beads is the rice breaks down and it gets powdery. It has to be changed and cleaned periodically. It gets bugs in it, depending where you live, like that. So it's very helpful. And slowly, and what people did is they went to a craft store and they bought like a little plate upside down. They put a little colorful rim around it, and they got, you know, you can make your own, basically. And we used to have mandala workshops in California with a group that won, and we would sit in a circle and I taught people how, and then we would practice and do. So that's the mandala offering, just to show you where that would be included if you like. Okay. So we're going to just right now offer the short mandala. And what I'd like you to do is, you can also learn how to put your hands in the configuration. This is a symbol of the mandala offering. So your ring fingers are back to back, if anybody wants to try. Some of you've got, and then what happens is when you put your ring fingers upright back to back, your middle fingers are in front, and you're going to pull the opposing middle finger apart with your pointer. So you see these fingers here? And then towards me are my pinkies. So put your hands upside down, Anna, backwards. Yeah, there you go. That's going to be easier. And then the pinkies are towards me, and I'm again going to pull the opposing pinky apart with my thumbs. You look great. Those of you doing great. So what these are, these different finger parts, are the 4 continents. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And Mount Meru in the center. It's just a symbol. Then what some people do is, we don't want our mandala, necessarily our world system, to be empty. So you might put your rosary in your hands. You can put your eyeglasses in your hands. You can put a ring in your hands, or a watch or something like that, and just hold it in your hands. And that's why before pujas, they give out a little bit of rice around the room in the traditional monasteries or nunneries, so that that's held in your hands, so your hands are not empty. And all this is going to be as a configuration of the universe. So as we recite this prayer that I'm going to share again on the screen, short mandala offering, that you want to visualize, and here as it says, clean air, clean water, everything made of light and luminous, beautiful flowers, fragrances, everything beautiful to see, hear, smell, taste, touch, and think about, the perfect world that we ourselves wish to quickly bring about. And we're visualizing holding it in our hands. It reflects the entire universe, and we're approaching Shakyamuni Buddha's throne. From our hearts, we make this offering. So again, symbolic to please help our meditation, whether it's please give us a teaching, please bless our minds, like that. And we can read, this ground anointed with perfume, strewn with flowers, adorned with Mount Meru, 4 continents, the sun and the moon. I imagine this as a Buddha field and offer it. May all living beings enjoy this pure land. If you like and you have time, at the bottom of the page is something called the 3 Great Purposes. So, and you can read, and this also relates to the more subtle visions that appear in our consciousness in higher level practices, and also at the death time. I go for refuge to the Guru and the 3 precious, rare, sublime ones. That's the 3 jewels, sublime jewels. Please bless my mental continuum. Please bless me and all sentient beings to cease immediately all wrong conceptions, from incorrect devotion to the Guru up to the subtle dual view of the white appearance, red increase, and black near attainment. Please bless me and all sentient beings to actualize immediately all the correct realizations, from Guru devotion up to the unification of no more learning. Please pacify immediately all outer and inner obstacles. And then we asked Shakyamuni Buddha, inseparable from the Guru, to accept this mandala offering. Idam guru dadam endalakam niratayami. And then we have more traditional requests. So again, as if we are bowing our head, in a sense, as it says, holding the feet of our teacher. So bowing the head to Shakyamuni Buddha's throne in this case, we make these requests. Feel free if you'd like to join in. Guru Vajradhara, that's the primordial Buddha, who encompasses all three objects of refuge, taking the form of the virtuous friend in whatever ways subdues, and granting common and sublime realizations. To you, kind gurus, I make requests. Whose holy body is created by millions of virtues and goodness, whose holy speech fulfills the wishes of all sentient beings, whose holy mind sees every existence exactly, at the holy feet of the principal of the Shakyas, I make requests. By making offerings and requests with devotion to the highest sublime field of merit, you, the Savior, who are the sole source of all my happiness and goodness, please grant me blessings and guide me with your pleased holy mind. If you have any more specific requests from your heart, you can make them right here. The Buddha is very, very happy to help us. And imagine right now, golden light streams from the Buddha's heart, coming over to our forehead, granting us all the blessings and realizations as we recite Shakyamuni Buddha's mantra. So here you could separate into a color of light that represents purification for you. And if you have more time, do some mantras like that. Then you could do golden light rays coming over, granting you the blessings and realizations. Udaya da mune mune maha mune so Taya do mune mune maha mune. Taya da mune mune mama nae soha. So here, if you're just finishing this particular practice, which was number 2, then you could dedicate the merit and visualize the Buddha comes to a radiant light. You finish however many mantras you want to recite of the Buddha's mantra, comes to, dissolves from the edges of that visualization into the center, into a radiant crystal drop. And that drop melts into your crown, and you get all the blessings and realizations, and you can dedicate the merit. Or what you can do is go on and meditate on the Lam Rim. So this would be what I'd like you to focus on this next week, meditation 3 that is on your screen, which is the same practice, but now adding Lam Rim meditation, right? And if you don't have much time, you can do the 7 limbs in a very short version. You could do the refuge in a shorter version. You could do the mantra, Shakyamuni Buddha's mantra, in a shorter version, but at least do a little bit. And then what we're really going to do is now try analytical meditation on the Lam Rim. So here it has the exact same things, the refuge and bodhicitta, and it has requests. So everything is a little bit more streamlined, 7-limb prayer. So you're going to take that from the other part of the practice, the requests. And here's the Lam Rim meditation. And I just want to check. And this is based on a very famous prayer, Lam Rim prayer, called the foundation of all good qualities. The foundation of all good qualities. So what you normally would do is, if we're going to meditate on the Lamrim at this point, it's really nice to recite a Lamrim prayer, okay? And then we'll start meditating. So wait, I'm just going to stop the share for a moment. Actually, we'll go ahead and we're going to read these two verses. And there's many Lamrim prayers. I really like the Foundation of All Good Qualities. If you want to go deeper into that and really follow along, Buddhism in a Nutshell is a course based on the Foundation of All Good Qualities. So the organization asked me to record that many years ago. It is one of those intro level courses that we have. And that could help you have a, further, and I think that the MP3 is available online to download, which is the 11-hour course I taught, because the book is slightly different, but the course that the audio CD takes you right through, and the audio files of the Foundation of All Good Qualities, like that, after a basic introduction. Let's read these first two verses. The foundation of all good qualities is the kind and venerable Guru. Correct devotion to him is the root of the path. By clearly seeing this and applying great effort, please bless me to rely upon him with great respect. Understanding that the precious freedom of this rebirth is found only once, is greatly meaningful and is difficult to find again, please bless me to generate the mind that unceasingly, day and night, takes its essence. I'm just stopping the share for a moment. I want to explain. So those are the first two verses of the Foundation of All Good Qualities. What I would do with the first verse, which is related to the meditations on Guru devotion, is I don't, especially for newer people getting their practices in line, I would leave that until later. And I would start with precious human rebirth. That's stanza 2, verse 2. So this is kind of the beginning of the Lamrim. This is an essential part of the beginning. And the reason is Guru devotion, in a sense, is like a preliminary. But with Precious Human Rebirth, when I asked you to focus last week on homework of reflecting on your good qualities and the good things that you do, your good activities, this is related to Precious Human Rebirth. And this is what Westerners so desperately need. The reason is many Westerners I know, many students suffer from depression and anxiety. This is the antidote to that, is meditating on precious human rebirth. So it's a lot of people say, what do I do? What's the antidote? Should I see a therapist and all that? You can see a therapist, absolutely. But this is something, if you do this regularly, okay? So what if you can, and if you have, and I've mentioned different texts, but okay, the extended Lamrim outlines, put together by Annie Karen who lives at Kopan, Swedish nun. She's wonderful. She put this together and they use it at the Kopan course, okay? This is an easier guide to how to meditate on the Lamrim, okay? So what you do is you get out your guide if you can, and you can download this online. You can use it on your computer screen if you like that, or on a tablet. And it goes in order of the Lamrim topics, okay? And there is also in here, and let me just double check that, I believe it's in these, I know we have the Vajrasattva practice. Okay, I'm going to share my screen for a moment. Wait, I want to find, Rinpoche gives an outline of ways you can meditate on. Let me just see if I can find that. I just had it here. I want to share it with you. Okay, let me see if I can find it. Okay, I'm going to share my screen just to give you a little idea. Okay. Okay, I can't see. Let me see if I can make it bigger. And just tell me if you lose the document and you can't see it. Okay. This is a very rough guide, but it's helpful if you start to develop your own guide. It's much more powerful for your mind. I've worked with people on their guides and setting it up. It's much more powerful again. And I'm happy to guide you a little bit, but how to set this up. So here you see the key meditations of the Lam Rim. Now, this is the thing everybody's leaving out of their practice. They're doing mantra recitation. They're visualizing this, but they're not really doing analytical meditation on the Lam Rim. It's hard for Westerners, but we can do this. And this is what starts shifting your consciousness into a better place. Now, here we go. So the beginning foundation is Guru devotion. We're going to skip that for now, and we're going to start with A. Here it says stimulus to attract the essence from your precious human rebirth. That's what PHR is. Okay, identify the perfect human rebirth. So this is what we're going to do and how to extract the essence. It talks about the 3 scopes. So what I talked about last week is these topics: death and impermanence, the lower rebirth, refuge, developing faith and karma. Those make up the meditations you're going to be doing related to a lower capable being's motivation. Lower scope, Lam Rim. Middle scope, the sufferings and the 12 links of dependent arising. And it says this is training yourself in the middle scope, where you're yearning to get out of suffering and reach nirvana. That's liberation. Training in the higher scope, you're going to be meditating on bodhicitta and the different ways to do that, which is 7-fold cause and effect, exchanging self for others, training in bodhisattva's deeds, talking about tantra. So I just wanted to show you a little very rough outline of how and then what you're going to do on your own if you like. And this is especially for people that get a practice from Rinpoche, that decided to ask Rinpoche. Rinpoche is going to give you things of how many months to meditate on precious human rebirth, or lower scope, or medium scope, and then you have to map it out. And I've worked with some students who map out like 1 month on this and 1 month on that. And what it means is at least once a day, can you get 15 or 20 minutes? It's not much. If you get more time, spend more time on a topic. And I'm going to explain how we do that. If you get some retreat time, what was most significant for me is when I make retreat time, like I just did in February. I've done many times at Laudo or Vajrapani or other retreat centers, where I get several times a day to stay with one meditation. That whole day, over and over and over, analytically analyzing, looking at it from different points, from things I've read in the scripture, things I've highlighted in an outline, notes that I've made, something I heard in teaching, adding my own life's experience in. Again, until the intellectual realization of something becomes more heart level, juicier, experiential realization. And that's what starts changing your mind for the better. Let's look at this with precious human rebirth. How am I going to do this with precious human rebirth? I'm going to stop the share. Okay. So I've just I just started my Lam Rim prayer, and at the part that I want to meditate, the topic I want to meditate, which right now for us is precious human rebirth. That's your homework this week. So I want you to go back and I want you to identify what are the things you need to meditate on. Okay. And to start to meditate. So you're first going to read the 2 verses. When the verse you want to meditate on, read that verse, and then you stop and try at least 15 or 20 minutes. Then when you finish, read the rest of the prayer. Read the rest of the prayer. Because so at least every day my mind gets kind of soaked, or every time I sit hears that whole Lam Rim prayer. Like that. Now again, I know, and you can read it more quickly if you don't have time. So with precious human rebirth, what I'm going to do is, if you can, take out a basic Lam Rim book. So I either have my outlines, or I might have a book. I'm going to give you a few ideas. A book called The Essential Nectar. Basic Lam Rim book. Or sometimes there's another version of it called The Essence of Nectar. You can find all these books online. Wisdom Publications publishes a lot of them. I might go to a more in-depth Lam Rim book called The Essence of Refined Gold. I spent one retreat just outlining that book so that I myself had an outline of What was the essence? I made it myself so it had more significance in my mind. I really had to read and go, okay, well, that's the point there. That's the point there. It's juicier for you, resonates more with you. You might be on the wrong point. That's okay. Then you can come back to this, which is going to identify and clarify what are the best points to meditate on. And that's how we put our practice together. Okay. Then you're going to go into a heavier, more in-depth, when you're ready, Lam Rim book, which is going to be something like this. Liberation in the Palm of Your Hand. See the title there. Now there's 2 versions of this. Okay. There's the 3-volume version called Liberation in Our Hands. And that is made by a publisher in northern New Jersey. I happen to like that translation better than the 1-volume Wisdom one, but don't tell Wisdom Publications that I said that. It's the same exact teaching, it's just a different translation. Okay, so theirs is called Liberation in the Palm of Your Hands. This is called Liberation in Our Hands. It's the same teaching that was given by Kabji Pabonka Rinpoche in Lhasa around 1945. His Holiness, his disciple, His Holiness Trijang Rinpoche, who was the junior tutor to His Holiness the Dalai Lama in his last life, he basically recorded all of it and put it into this kind of Bible for us. And it's fantastic. So it's more in-depth Lam Rim when you want more details like this. Then the most detailed is called the Lam Rim Chenmo, the Great Treatise of the Lam Rim from Lama Tsongkhapa. So again, depending on what level you're ready to hear like that, there's something for everybody. Now here's the beauty of this particular volume. This is the red volume, volume 2, part 2 of Liberation in Our Hands that I have dog-eared on retreats and used many, many times. In the back of this volume, what I find so significant is Appendix F. It's only in this volume, Appendix F. And what it is how to meditate on the stages of the path to enlightenment. It's an outline. It's basically instruction. And from a very high Lama of how do you do this particular instruction. And so I'll give you an example and then I'm going to break it down for you. Okay, when you get to the part about precious human rebirth, and it'll say, analytical meditation is the exercise of eliciting experiential realizations by contemplating a particular meditation topic from every standpoint and in every way, using scriptural citations and sharp reasoning. So just like what I just mentioned, and then he goes into the details on it, and he'll say, for instance, let me give you the specifics on precious human rebirth. Okay. These are like written in verse form. Okay. So when you divide your meditation into these 3 periods, this is talking more in retreat, but you can do it in daily life, in your session. Okay. The way to contemplate serving a spiritual teacher is, as I explained before, that was earlier in his text, and the way to gain realizations starting with leisure and fortune is first to identify what the essence of leisure and fortune is. And then he explains. So let me explain now what you'd meditate on, what you're going to do this week. Please, if you can do this, leisure and fortune. Page 14 in the Lam Rim outlines. Right here, it starts, perfect human rebirth. It's all laid out for you right here. 8 leisures, also called 8 freedoms, and 10 endowments, also called 10 richnesses. That's how we hear them, either the 8 freedoms and the 10 richnesses, or the 8 leisures and 10 endowments. 18 situations, basically, that make up a precious human rebirth. Some of them are related, some of them are similar, but let's say you have 18 situations. And Rinpoche's given you this and said, meditate on the lower scope of the Lam Rim for 1 year. That's 12 months. Okay, so you want to divide up, I've got precious human rebirth, all those meditations, that could be a month. Of that month, 30 days, let's say, 18 days, I'm going to go through the 18 situations. best as you can. If you want to do 2 days on each one, that's great. That just know that's going to be 36 days. So you divide up like that. You make your own schedule. And I'll give you an example. Okay, I'm going to work on the first one, you might say. Well, the first freedom is I'm free from being born in a hell realm. Okay, well, that sounds pretty bleak. And a lot of people don't like dealing with hells and all that. However, what we might want to do is to read in the Lam Rim before your meditation. The meditation's not a reading period. It's not like, oh, what do I meditate on now? You should be clear what you're meditating on in the meditation session, because we don't have a lot of time, right? So in my spare time, I'm going to read about the hell realms, okay? In the Lam Rim. It's all in the Lam Rim. Well, it's obviously what you think it is. It's pretty bleak. Freezing cold hells, horribly suffering hot hells, all kinds of torturous situations. What gets you into a hell realm? Incredible sadistic killing and negative mind. Horrible negative states of mind like that. Really bad things you can imagine, okay? But our hell realms are not like Catholic hell realms. They are temporary. And when you're in those hell realms, you're exhausting the karma that got you there. And through the suffering you go through in the hell realms, eventually you will move out of those hell realms by the purification you're going through, okay? So again, you may want to turn around and around and around all those horrible situations for 20 minutes to generate, it does generate a fear and a revulsion, but to use that to motivate your practice. And then you come back into your current life and you realize, I'm not in a hell realm. I have a perfect human life right now. I have every perfect example, every perfect opportunity to practice Dharma. Feel that sense of relief, but then dedicate in your heart, I am going to use it more and more wisely every day. I have to. I have to. So slowly you'd meditate like that. Like when it says you're free from being in the animal realm. Okay. Now what you want to try to do, if it's hell realm, if it's hungry ghost realm, these are lower realms of existence. Try to imagine what it would be like to be that hell being for a moment. Think of when you put your finger over a flame, how painful. You can barely hold it there for a second. Well, what if your body's on fire in a hell? Can you just place your mind in that for a moment as long as you can? It's horrifying. There's no question, it's horrifying, right? So try to look at, if you're an animal, what's it like? Don't just think, oh, it's terrible animal realm, you know, but we think of our pets as highly intelligent. People get offended when they go, what do you mean animals are lower? You know, be an animal for a moment. Pick an animal, be your cat. You think it's really great. They sleep in the sun all day. Everything's great, right? And then you drop a pan off the counter and the cat jumps in the air, doesn't understand. Animals don't understand Dharma. They're not practicing Dharma necessarily. I know you say your cat looks like they're in deep samadhi. Check again. I just spent the last weekend with a cat. I took care of my niece's cat while she was away. Great cat. I've lived with many animals and I love animals. She was a great cat, easy, intelligent, whatever. You know, an easy housemate to have. But I, you know, studied her a little bit living with her. I mean, here we were, one space. Let's face it with cats. I'm sorry, I don't mean to insult your cat. Cats are some of the most absorbed beings, self-absorbed beings I've ever met on the planet, right? It's all about them, isn't it? It's amazing, you know? Over and again, that's the cat realm. She can't study Dharma. She can't read a Dharma book. She doesn't understand what I was saying. I can say mantras to her, maybe the best I could do for her. You know, put a picture of the Buddha on her crown or something. She doesn't understand, as intelligent as she is, like that. So you want to be that, look out through her eyes. Go into her food dish and eat her food. Be there eating that disgusting food that stinks so much, right? You really have to put yourself, and then 15, 20 minutes, soak your mind in it. Absorb your mind into that experience as best as you can. This is where we need our concentration. So your mind's going to get distracted, go off, back to the cat, back to the animal, be the snake, be whatever, choose an animal. Back to that animal. What's it like to be them? What do they think about all day? Look out through their eyes over and over. And then at the end of the meditation, you come back. Look at your life in comparison. Look at your life in comparison. Okay. Very significant. Feel that I'm going to dedicate my life. So slowly you go through 18 situations. Then you go into the usefulness of, there's different things, the difficulty, how rare it is to get a precious human rebirth. How rare it is, okay? So for instance, one of the rarity stories they talk about is the blind sea turtle. Honestly, I didn't get this in the beginning in the Lama Rim. I was like, I always heard the blind sea turtle. Okay, there's a blind sea turtle. This is an analogy they give you. This is how rare precious human rebirth is. People say to me, oh, well, you're a nun now, so you'll come back as a human. I don't know that. You don't know what's in my mind, right? You never know. So the blind sea turtles, you have a blind sea turtle swimming. You know how vast the oceans of the world are. Every 100 years, it surfaces to get air. And floating on the top level of the ocean is a golden yolk, like a lifesaver with a hole in it, just randomly floating on the top of the oceans of the world. What are the chances that that blind sea turtle that surfaces once every 100 years will come up and get its head through the yolk? That's a precious human rebirth. So you want to slowly, so I didn't really, for a long time, I never really used that analogy. I just didn't get it. It didn't work for me. And then at one point I went into the meditation of the vastness of the water. Like I just stayed there for a while. The vastness, like, wow, there's a lot of water on the planet. A lot of water on the planet. And then I got this yolk just hanging out. And then the sea turtle only once every 100 years comes up. Slowly I could put it in my mind of how extremely rare it is to get this rebirth. So as far as countering depression and anxiety, the more you do these meditations, it wakes you up to the unbelievably fantastic situation you have right now. It doesn't get much better than this, other than reaching nirvana and getting enlightened. But on the human realm, you're in the perfect place right now. I know we all have problems. I know we all have situations we need to deal with, but we have every perfect opportunity right now. Please don't waste it. Please use it. It could be a long, long time before you come back around to do it like this again. So it's fantastic. Now here's another thing about analytical meditation. Westerners get bored. For instance, you're okay, I'm the cat, I'm the cat, I'm the cat. Oh, I think I want to go downstairs and have something to eat. This is boring. I think I want to look at something. My phone is pinging. I want to look at that. Whatever it is, we go, I don't know how to do analytical meditation. It's boring. Okay. But when you're talking about that person at your workplace that people don't get on with, and you're going over and over with colleagues, friends, family members, over and over about this person and everything they said and everything they did to you and what they, if you suffered from abuse, for instance, this is where it often gets activated. Over and over, I'm turning in my mind about this person and they said that, and then they looked like that, and then they did this. And that's analytical meditation. To convince you the person is evil, that the person is an abuser for all time. Okay, so we do analytical meditation, or in the face of attachment, you see your love interest, person you're attracted to, and you turn over and over in your mind from every angle, the quality of their hair, and the lovely color of their eyes, and their melodic voice, and the beautiful clothes they wear, and how intelligent they are, and how they move their hair like this and they put their hand like that. And that's analytical meditation. But it's not done in the right way because it courts attachment. It creates more attachment. Or in the case of a negative scene, it creates more aversion in your mind. So what we're trying to get to is the truth. You're going through precious human rebirth and realizing there's no benefit really in being an animal. I don't want to end up in the hell realms. And look at the situation I have now. It's amazing. It's fantastic. So how can I stay depressed when I've got every perfect situation? Only because depression is just a habit in my mind. And because I haven't fully appreciated the situation I have. I haven't looked authentically at what the reality really is. Like that. So the text, Mary, volume 2, the text is of the 3-volume Liberation in Our Hands, it's called. And it's Mahayana and Sutrayana Press in Northern New Jersey. You can find it online. I love their books. So this is another version of Liberation in the Palm of Your Hand, the 1-volume one from Wisdom Publications. Let me just show you. However, this is the Wisdom Publication one. Sorry, whoops. Liberation in the Palm of Our Hand. This is 1 volume, it has everything, okay? But it doesn't have the outlines. The outlines are only in this volume, which is a separate publisher, and this one comes in 3 volumes. There's a gold volume, a red volume, and a blue volume. This is part 2, volume 2. It's actually called part 2, and Appendix F is at the back of this volume only. Okay. Let me just, okay, I think I went, oh, and one other thing just to add, I wanted to go through, something I forgot was on another note, but is everybody clear right now with meditation on the Lam Rim? So what we would do, let's just do, we're gonna do like 5 minutes right now. What I'd like to do, because we're in that, we just read that verse, we're gonna do Precious Human Rebirth, just one piece of this. Just sit comfortably. And we've just done our requests. We've done our Shakyamuni Buddha mantras. I've read 2 verses of Liberation in the Palm of Your Hand. Foundation of All Good Qualities. And now I want to do some analytical meditation on the Lam Rim. You can just close your eyes. You would already be clear on what you're going to be meditating on of Precious Human Rebirth. And let's look at one of our endowments, one of the 10 endowments. 5 of the endowments are environmental endowments. 5 of them are personal. One of the environmental or circumstantial endowments is that we exist, we've been born at a time when a Buddha has appeared. Let's just look at this endowment right now. This is our meditation right now. We exist, and we are on a planet right now at a time when a Buddha has manifested, which is Shakyamuni Buddha. Even though he lived 2,600 years ago, these are the teachings we are studying right now that actually originated from the Buddha's actual teachings. Let's go in there more deeply. Let's really think about this. And just think deeply. I live at a time that a Buddha has existed. Think about Shakyamuni Buddha and anything that you happen to know about his life. Just reflect on that for a moment. Think of all he did to become a Buddha. How many lifetimes he spent practicing to reach that attainment. And you can certainly apply any scriptural references you remember, anything you heard in the class. And this particular endowment corresponds to the freedom of being born at a time when the Buddha didn't appear. So you can sometimes combine 2 points in one meditation. We're free from being born at a time when there's no Buddha. So think about that. Think of how that relates. There would be no Tupta Norbaling. Geshe Sherab would not be a Geshe. I would probably not be a Buddhist nun right now. You might be studying or doing a Zoom class on some other methodology. There would be no FPMT, and you may not have ever heard of someone named Lama Zopa Rinpoche or His Holiness the Dalai Lama. Just think about what your world would be like in that case. Would anything be different? What sort of path would you have to deal with your problems right now to make you happier, more balanced? How would you feel to have your life devoid of Dharma? And come from every angle you can think of, from every approach like a laser absorbing your mind. Thinking, for instance, are there any Buddha images around your house? They would not exist. Would that make any difference in your home? There would be no Buddhist books. Would that make any difference? No online classes with His Holiness the Dalai Lama and other teachers. No retreats with Lama Zopa Rinpoche. Certainly no Buddhist retreats. No Buddhist centers all over the world. What would that be like? And think about your life right now the way it actually is. The fact that a Buddha has manifested. Think of your bookcase, think of your altar, think of the programs and activities in your life if you're engaged in some Buddhist activities. Think of how the life fills out suddenly with a certain path to enlightenment, a certain freedom from suffering, ultimately, permanently. And then please relax. And then what we would do at this point, you meditate as long as you can, and then we read the rest of the Lamrim prayer. I'm going to share my screen. And again, if you feel it's hard to hold attention for 15, 20 minutes, you feel you've exhausted the thing of that a Buddha's existed, maybe you go into the next point, that not only did a Buddha exist, but he taught the Dharma. There will be world systems, different eons, when a Buddha will exist, but he won't teach. He won't teach how he got there. What are you going to do at that time? Now we have everything. In fact, the teaching on Tantra, Shakyamuni Buddha teaches everything. The whole path is available to you right now. You've created the cause for that to happen. It's fantastic. Please use it wisely, as best as you can. And so here, I'm just going to share my screen, where it says richnesses, to meditate on precious human rebirth, first recognize the situation we find. So this gives you some ideas of things you can think about. And this is just more in general. We have a human life, we have intelligence, we have, so you could go through that as well and do a meditation like that. And then it talks about the freedoms in general. So certainly have a look at that this week. And then it goes into the rare and difficult to find. So this is a nice way also to do meditation where they're not going through each specific one. This is absolutely perfect, like this. And what are you going to do with it? So it really does help. Rare by the way of causes, and it explains all of that here perfectly in this meditation. Okay. And then here, conclusion. You finish your meditation. So please do work on that part. It's really, really helpful, of those just above couple of pages. If you can do that this week. Asking the Buddha, who's still in the space in front, from the depths of our hearts, to please bless us to recognize this precious opportunity, okay? To not forget it and to use it to the best of our abilities. Okay, recognizing nothing stands in our way to freedom, to enlightenment. All we have to do is make the effort, right? So here it has, let me just double check. I'm just going to take it. So here, again, if you want, after the meditation, it has repeating the second verse of the prayer you could do, but we're going to continue with the rest of the prayer right now. This life is as impermanent as a water bubble. Remember how quickly it decays and death comes. After death, just like a shadow follows the body, the results of black and white karma follow. Finding firm and definite conviction in this, please bless me to always be careful to abandon even the slightest negativities and accomplish all virtuous deeds. So that's dealing with death and impermanence and karma and the negativities that could follow. Seeking samsara pleasures is the door to all suffering. They are uncertain and cannot be relied upon. Recognizing these shortcomings, please bless me to generate the strong wish for bliss, for the bliss of liberation. So that talks about the different sufferings of the medium scope being. Led by this pure thought, mindfulness, alertness, and great caution arise. The root of the teachings is keeping the pratimoksha vows. Please bless me to accomplish this essential practice. So that's also talking about also developing penetrative insight, shine, calm abiding, mindfulness, alertness, like that, and also taking certain vows that will help promote our path to freedom. And that's one stanza. This one, they should have a line in between there. This is the next stanza. Just as I've fallen into the sea of samsara, so have all mother migratory beings. Please bless me to see this, train in supreme bodhicitta, and bear the responsibility of freeing migratory beings. So now it starts talking about developing bodhicitta. Even if I develop only bodhicitta, but I don't practice the 3 types of morality, I will not achieve enlightenment. With my clear recognition of this, please bless me to practice the bodhisattva vows with great energy. Once I have pacified distractions to wrong objects and correctly analyzed the meaning of reality, please bless me to generate quickly within my mind stream the unified path of calm abiding and special insight. So this is how we use, from having a direct perception of emptiness, how we develop it with calm abiding with Shine, and combining basically what we call calm abiding with special insight, or basically Shine Latong, they call it. Shine calm abiding Latong, special insight. Having become a pure vessel by training in the general path, please bless me to enter the holy gateway of the fortunate ones, the supreme Vajra vehicle. Now they're talking about taking tantric empowerment. At that time, the basis of accomplishing the 2 attainments is keeping pure vows and samaya. As I become firmly convinced of this, please bless me to protect these vows and pledges like my life. The vows, we would have more vows, the most vows in some ways when we have tantric empowerment, but mainly they're designed that we are to learn them, to keep them, and when we keep them well, we automatically get enlightened. That's how they're basically vows and pledges free us. They're not a burden, they free us. Then, having realized the importance of the 2 stages, the essence of the Vajrayana, this is the 2 stages of Tantra, by practicing with great energy, never giving up the 4 sessions. So they're basically talking in a more retreative mode, or setting up our lifestyle that we have more time to meditate. Please bless me to realize the teachings of the Holy Guru. Like that, may the gurus who show the noble path and the spiritual friends who practice it have long lives. Please bless me to pacify completely all outer and inner hindrances. In all my lives never separated from perfect gurus, may I enjoy the magnificent Dharma by completing the qualities of the stages and paths. May I quickly attain the state of Vajradhara. Vajradhara is one of the primordial Buddhas, like that. And then we can request at the end, glorious and precious root Guru, please abide on the lotus and moon seat on my crown, and taking care of me with your great kindness, bestow upon me the attainments of your holy body, speech, and mind. So again, Shakyamuni Buddha in the space in front of us. Imagine dissolving from the edges of the visualization into a radiant crystal drop of light, along with the throne, the 3 cushions he sits under, the lotus, moon, and sun, the 3 principles of the path, his foundation. And that radiant crystal drop comes to our crown, absorbing into us. And just feel all of the blessings and realizations of his holy body, speech, and mind. And we'll just read the dedication prayers right here. And dedicating any positive energy that we have generated during this meditation to the swift enlightenment of each and every living being, to the freedom from suffering in this world and beyond, the attainment of perfect happiness for all living beings. And that we ourselves might especially take advantage of this precious life that we have found, that we have created, I would add, develop all the realizations of the path within our minds, and quickly become exactly what is needed to benefit all living beings. Thank you, Mary, for posting the link to the Mahayana Sutra and Tantra Press with that particular volume, or those volumes. Any questions right now, please? Is it making sense or coming together for you, or are you confused? I just want to check in how we're doing. And again, this is just one way to practice, and I'm setting up that I honestly have said I feel like we get good results from this. We do get good results. So, and it's not me having realizations. It's not me, anyone special, but it does seem to affect something positive in the mind. Any questions? one time, just to add before we finish, Jenny, please.
Hello. I've got Liberation in the Palm of My Hand, in the Palm of Your Hand, which is a blue version by Pabonka Rinpoche. And it's one of my instructions from Lama Zopa to read it 3 times. I thought this was the only version. So
well, which is the publisher? Is it Wisdom Publications?
yes.
Yeah, so
yes,
they've
Wisdom.
issued different versions, but it's the same book. All they did is like mine is, I have a hard copy that I think is blue. This is the paperback,
Okay.
Wisdom Publications.
Okay. Mine is a paperback, but it is Wisdom Publications,
Yeah, it's the
and
same.
I've been reading it. So
It's the
as
same
long as
book,
that's
that's fine.
okay.
That's fine.
Thank you.
'Cause
Thank you,
sometimes
Venerable.
when you get when you get your instructions, if you want instructions from Rinpoche, Rinpoche may tell you to read certain Lam Rim books a few times through. It's very helpful to do that. Again, if you really want to practice and start to synthesize this path, it really starts to come together. But I'm sorry to say, you have to make some effort. The effort has to come from your side. We can't do it for you. I wish we could. I wish the lamas could. And the only reason I want to explain in Foundation of All Good Qualities, in the beginning, it talks about the guru being male. It was just because of the time it was written in. People have female teachers, and it's just like that. That's the only reason, like that. So one last story, and then we'll end there for today. So again, the homework again is to please take this next meditation, continue with the meditation with the refuge. We have 3 now. The refuge one, meditation 1 with Shakyamuni Buddha. We have number 2, Shakyamuni Buddha, with a little bit more on the 7 limbs. That also includes the refuge. And then Shakyamuni Buddha, more focused, which is number 3, focused on doing it with analytical meditation on a precious human rebirth. Whichever you'd like to focus on this week, you can actually combine them all into one. Do the best you can. Just please do the best you can. And continue, again, working on making sure the balance is there, that you're not trashing yourself this week, that you make a mistake and that's all you think about all week. Anxiety over that. No, there's other good things that you're doing. So please make sure there's equal airtime if you're somebody that has a tendency to do that, to pound yourself and get down on yourself. But you can also meditate on precious human rebirth. That will help as well. Think about the great situation you have. And the other thing I wanted to mention, so one time I teach in Mexico as many times, and one time I was down there, and the people that were hosting me, he used to have a dive shop, and he wanted me to go scuba diving. I never did it before, but he wanted me to go out snorkeling with them. And I love seawater. I love to swim in the ocean. And after much prompting from him, I finally agreed. And they had a boat. We went out into the open ocean, but they were scuba diving and I wasn't licensed to do that. So they hooked me up with snorkel equipment. And I had, in order to do it, because we were out in the open sea, I had to have a lifesaver tied to my ankle on a rope that would float, so boats would see that there's somebody there, that they wouldn't mow me over. So that was fine. And I was just very happy paddling around and looking down, and there was all kinds of things you could see. And it was just wonderful. It was a beautiful day. And unbelievable. There's my yoke floating, my lifesaver floating. And all of a sudden a sea turtle comes in front of me, rising to the surface. And it was so funny because I immediately was back in the rarity of precious human beings. I'm like, the sea turtle didn't look blind. I mean, I don't know, it didn't look blind, but I'm like, it's a sea turtle. There's my yoke. I was like, and did it get its head in the yoke, in the circle? What do you think? It did not even close. So, but it's neat to so in your post-meditation phases, let's try to use everything. Use those experiences, right? There's always some experience to turn my mind back to the Dharma. Like I was out there enjoying a day in the ocean, no big deal. But suddenly I'm like, wow, here's my precious human rebirth, which they wanted me to go out every day. And that's why I didn't go out every day. Because I'm like, one day is good enough. Had a lovely break. We all need breaks. It was fantastic. And now I need to get back to my work of working on my mind. And then another day I'm going to take another break. Absolutely. Thank you, everyone. I'd like to dedicate to, just more informally, all of the beings that need additional help right now. Can we please offer them any of our merit, all the merit, positive energy, for those with COVID to be healed instantly, for those who've died in the last 49 days, like Pythagoras in Brazil, may they immediately take a precious human rebirth to get enlightened, to benefit all, for the long lives of our precious teachers like His Holiness the Dalai Lama and Lama Zopa Rinpoche, and for all the flourishing of our centers, particularly Thupten Norbaling. Thank you to Thupten Norbaling and Mary and all the people hosting, Mary and Anna, and all the people, all of you to participate. Thank you so much. Lovely to see all of you.